start by asking you, what was your creative process for this play, and how did you and Dan Paulus, the director, start on this project together? Can people hear us? Is the mic loud enough? You can hear? Great.
Hello? Yeah. So, I think it was about 2015. Diane had read the memoir and gave me the book. And generally, I read a play and I try finding a personal connection to the piece. So I would generally clear my head, clear my schedule, and have a private moment. But in this case, I had worked with Eve for many years, since 1999, so it's almost 20 years now. And I already had a personal connection, and I knew of her illness. So when I got this book, I was quite emotional. So it was slightly different, and I was afraid to read it. But it was so beautiful. There was so much humor. There's so much, she gives you so much of herself in the book. And we thought about how to bring that experience for the audience, how to have that connection, how to invite you guys to her space. So we thought about starting with a space that is her personal space, like her apartment. So we created a space that evokes that. It's not literal apartment, but yet it's a poetic space that would allow this journey. She could share this journey with you guys. So we started thinking about what we need to tell the story, what can move, how to evolve the space so that we can go to multiple spaces, and we go back in time, we go through her memory and also her treatments. So there's a lot going on, yet we wanted to be able to anchor it here so that we can, we have a support of the lighting designer, Jen Shriver, and Finn Ross, the projection designer, and the sound. It's all come together to help her tell the story so that you can share. So,
and the world of the garden behind us, how did that evolve? Was that something that Eve knew she wanted in the show from the beginning? Is that something that you guys found as you were discussing the production?
I think it came from Diane, and I'm not quite sure if it was Diane or Eve, but when they first started talking to me, they wanted to have a space for, at the end, have audience to connect with the piece, connect with nature, connect with have a spiritual moment. So we thought about a garden, and what kind of garden would it be? It's not a literal garden, but a spiritual garden, a place for meditation, to find yourself, connect with Eve's journey, and also experience her journey from here in Manhattan to City of Joy. We're not going literal to City of Joy, but it's just a metaphorical journey and to the garden.
And I feel like the journey of a set designer can be so fantastical. Did you go to the Chelsea Green Market? I mean, did you individually shop for the trees? Like, how did you find these here in our urban jungle?
Well, I did a lot of research of City of Congo and Congolese forests, and then we looked at trees that evoke rainforest, and also we have a plant that is called a red Congo, and we needed heights and palms, and so we work with specialists in Florida. In ART, we also work with a supplier who brought these tropical plants from south. So this at MTC, it's from Florida, and we have a horticulturist who come and take care of them, and our staff here are amazing. They prune, they water, they mist, they talk to them.
It's very much alive like our bodies.
Yes, I know yesterday one of them pointed out that one of the palm is opening, so at night they have lights, so special plant lights, so that they can still grow. So it's a living garden. It's like one of the last things Eve says is, mother's body against child's body, and you are here, and this is a moment that you are here.
And I think for the audience, for many of you who are long-time subscribers or patrons, you may know this, there is no freight elevator here at City Center that takes anyone downstairs, so the trees came down the same way you did, down the stairs or down the passenger elevator. So we have to give a big cheer to the crew who made sure the jungle could arrive downstairs. They worked very hard to make this happen. Switching from the set, to the costumes, so much of Eve's work, and this play in particular, is about her body, being grounded in her body, being scared of her body in this play, or sort of how it is fighting her. How did that help you decide what the costumes would be? How did you design that?
This piece is about her, about Eve, so it would have, it had to be something that she felt comfortable. That costume evoked who she is. She's confident. She's a woman with power and in message, and it's her costume needed to be. That evoked Eve. So we shared research. Eve sent me things that she felt comfortable in, and I would go shopping. I would send her the things that I found, and then we shared with Diane, and it was a evolving process with Eve directly, and then we would, with the costume shop here, we would shop, and then we'll try and find the right pieces. But it had to do things so that it would, it needed to be a certain way. So, but then it was about finding the look that gave her strength, and also ability to just move easily and convey who she is, and also neutral. It's finding a look that was beautiful for her and gave her strength, and neutral so that she can go in time back and forth. But this time around, versus at ART, the look was more softer. It was drapier and flowy. So it's just finding the right look for now.
And I'm curious, having worked on this production previously at ART, are there changes that were made between it being produced there and coming here? Having lived with it, having seen it on stage, did you make any changes, or is this preview period more about just making sure that the costumes in the set are right in this particular space, which is very deep, as opposed to some theaters which are very long? This is an incredibly deep theater.
Yes, we maximized the strength of this space. At ART was house is much bigger. There was a bigger house, and height and space is very different. But this place is very intimate, and play is very intimate. So we wanted to still capture the intimacy, even though it's not a huge space. We still narrow down the space for this venue, and then we wanted to open up into a garden, have that reveal, have that surprise. So I came in closest, smallest space possible, yet to reach everyone, and then open wide as possible, and then deep as possible. So we went all the way to the back wall into the I think dressing rooms. They were taken up right up against it. So I went as far as we can go on the sideways, as also all the way in the deep.
It feels, to me, having watched it, very Buddhist in that way, that you go all the way to the north and the south and the east and the west. You start small, but you expand in all of the directions. And what I feel like the changing, the opening of the world and the introduction of the garden is a startling, surprising, and sort of delightful moment. Another one for me, and I don't know if other people felt this way, was when Eve removed her wig. And it felt like a demarcation point between potentially her old self and her new one. And I'm wondering, again, is that something that she originally envisioned when writing the piece, or is that something you guys found as she was rehearsing?
I think we came to that doing workshop. We had a reading and a sort of a workshop earlier, 2016 in January, in her loft space, and we were reading, we were finding moments, and that's it's the haircut, and then to have the reveal.
it feels so personal. In a play full of a lot of personal revelations, that felt like an incredibly awe-inspiring moment to me to watch her do that.
Yeah, I think she's obviously, you can see that she's very brave. She shares everything. It's very raw. And there's a lot of powerful emotions that she shares. And it's honest. And the connection, I think, is palpable and very strong. At the end, I hope everyone finds place that, we all, for ourselves, and also empowers you guys to be who you are. I think for this, for me, it's also very personal, and it's been wonderful and also inspiring, and just awe of Eve also because of what she's gone through and what she's able to do, even under such a harrowing personal circumstance. She's able to care for other people to the depth of her care and humanity. It's just amazing. So I try being a better human.
And I love this juxtaposition that you said, that the costumes in many ways were meant to be sort of soft and flowing, even as she herself is a strong warrior, and that there is not one definition of what feminine is, there's not one definition of what warrior is. It's a combination of so many things that she embodies here on the stage, which you're seeing both in the set and the costumes, in addition to her as a person. Quite lovely.
Thank you.
I want to be able to open up the discussion to all of you as well. I can't bring the mic to you, but I can reiterate your question to make sure that everybody can hear. Does anyone want to ask a question of our fantastic set and costume designer? Right here in the orange, or the red.
I was just curious whether Eve changes the costume from night to night. Is it sometimes a red dress and sometimes a green dress? Is it?
Can I just reiterate the question really quick? The question was, do the costumes change each night? For example, at the end, is it always a red dress, or does the color change?
Costume is set, and transitions and changes are set. We've been exploring what kind of dress that she could wear at that last scene. It's she's going to City of Joy. She's healthier, and yet she's weak, but she's healthier, and she's going to a celebration to opening of City of Joy. So we chose the color red and something that evokes Africa, but not African. So it was a choice that we made, and it's a red and a beautiful necklace. Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Yes, back here.
Can I make a comment and then a question?
If it's a brief comment.
I'll try.
Okay.
So the set is very, very beautiful, and the garden reminds me of the Garden of Eden. The statue, however, reminds me of the snake in the garden. And I was just wondering, because, all mankind, as a spiritual person, we believe, that mankind sinned and then we're able to be redeemed. And I was just curious why you put that big statue in such a beautiful garden. I don't understand that. I'm just wondering, can you explain it?
The question was that the garden evokes the Garden of Eden for the person watching the show, and that the statue reminds her of the snake in the Garden of Eden, and that if the garden is meant for redemption, she's curious why you may have put such, for her, sinister feeling element on stage.
Okay. I wasn't thinking that it was a sinister image. It's Tara is a Buddhist from a Tibetan culture, and it's she's a powerful goddess, and also it's a spiritual garden for Eve, and it's the same goddess that's on the table that's down here. It's her transportation of this space into a garden, and it wasn't meant to be that particular way.
I would say, and that's part of the thing that I love about theater is it's so ephemeral and it's so much about how we interpret the story. So while it wasn't the intent of the set design, it's interesting the images and the biblical imagery and that it brought up for you. And there are no wrong answers in theater. That's what I tell students all the time. There are no wrong answers. It's just how you yourself interpret that story. Other questions that you may have? Yes.
Can you talk about the projections? How did those come about? How many were intended and described by Eve Ensler, and how many were yours?
The question was, how did the projections evolve? How much of it was through the production team, and how much did Eve envision when she was writing the show?
It came through discussion, design process, through Eve and Diane and projection designer Finn Ross. I'm a set designer. I create the environment for the characters to embody, and projection design enhances that experience. So we support through lighting, costume, set, and also in this case projection design. So all the design team work very tightly, and the images come from the text. It would sometimes evoke her emotion, or it will take you to a place that is in the play when she goes to visit her mother, or when we are in the hospital, or when she goes through a chemotherapy, that we see that the taxel going through her body. We sort of, the projection designer has created those images to support that moment, and it wasn't necessarily written per se, but I think we were inspired by the text and the story, so that's how it came about. And I don't quite know how many images or videos that Finn created, but there are many. And lighting designers, and so there's a projection from the back. So it's the wall is a rear projection and front projection. So sometimes we have image from the back, and she would be lit clearly. Sometimes she's washed the tree the moment that she goes into when she falls asleep. She's into the garden, she travels. So we see her body sort of traveling into that space of, garden. So it's a front projection and rear projection and lighting and all working together.
I think what was lovely too for me, I don't know if other people felt this about the projections, some of them were very literal, some of them were very metaphorical. I found the one when she's with her mother by the sea incredibly touching because it's both. Presumably, from what we know of her mother, she's potentially in Florida, so she's looking at the water, and yet she herself is churning internally with all of this emotion, and I feel like that projection was able to invoke that so clearly and beautifully. I personally love that. I'm sure you all have your favorites as well. We have time for one final question. Does anyone do you want to? Yes.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say it was truly a privilege to be able to walk through that beautiful garden. Was it always your intent to make that a participatory element of the show?
First, there was praise for the garden, which is well-deserved. And then the question was it always supposed to be a participatory experience when the show was done, or is that something that evolved as the production did?
It came up really quickly in the beginning between Diane and Eve, and came to me, and I was given the challenge of create the garden, and it seemed to evolve naturally. We wanted real flowers, real trees, real plants, and we wanted to feel like it was a real garden, a metaphorical garden, real space, and we wanted to have a real dirt and sand, but also it's a in-between space. So garden with carpets and pillows and places for. I was hoping that we were all hoping that you will linger and think and connect with nature.
That they could literally be in the body of the world.
Yes.
I want to thank you all so much. First, thank you. I know that it's been a long week. Thank you for coming out. Thank you so much for staying. These discussions are supposed to, the goal of them is to work in tandem with the production, and they will be happening throughout the run. Mama C, who you heard about, will be coming in for an entire week, on the week of Valentine's Day, to talk with our group. I believe Dr. Hansen will be coming. I know that there are doctors from the Mayo Clinic who will definitely be coming. So you can look on the website of Manhattan Theater Club to see the variety of guests that will be with us. I hope that you can join us or encourage other people to do so as well. And like I said, we're only able to touch on so little of the depth and the emotion and the content of this show, which is just so far-reaching and so incredibly moving. And I hope you will continue these discussions with the guests that you came with or later on with others as well on your way home. When do we officially open Manhattan Theater Club? Say again?
February 6th.
February 6th.
Can we come to see the other guests if we're not seeing the play again?
Sure.
Can we come after?
Sure.
I'm hearing yes. Yes, you are welcome to come. If you want to wait in the lobby when the doors open, you can come back to hear other guests. We can't necessarily promise you a seat if it's a full house and nobody moves, but obviously there are seats on the stage to make yourself comfortable. Thank you again for coming. Get home safe and be warm.